Through the early part of the turn, the old nations are really, too worn out to do much. I expanded into territory. I don't even know if that's wise. But the thing is, these guys are way in the corner. And it's not likely much is going to happen to them. The Romano-British or the Hispano-British aren't going to hit them. Yeah. Hispano-Romans, damn it. The name just doesn't work for me. I will mangle it one way or another in some direction. The Vandals are the only real threat. They're the only ones who can get through up to that side. And I don't know if they care to. No, they're going in a different direction. But someone, I think, is interested in getting up there. So it's not like it's a complete pass. I'm not so sure. Yeah, here we go. The Suave. With the Hispano-British, after... Honestly, I think I want to be here instead. After looking at where their victory points are coming on turn 7, the main thing I thought is, I want to make it as hard for these invasions as possible. So I'm throwing my forces along sort of a ridge line, just to try to slow them down a little bit. I don't care if they get up here in the north, which is nice for... Where was there? That is the Suave. Okay, I was mistaken. I thought those were the Vandals. The Vandals come down this way. Okay. I don't know, I could go for more force preservation down where my victory points are, or I could go for trying to limit the advance as much as possible, and I chose the latter. So the Vandals' rules are a weird sort of head start that I don't know what it even... they move all their armies in a stack 3 areas. They can't fight in the areas entered, nor can they leave any armies there for overrun. Each enemy army in these areas may roll once to see if it hits the Vandals as they walk through, I guess. After that, the Vandals have a normal major invasion. Their leader stays until the beginning of turn 8, which means I get them for 2 turns, and then some. Well, no. Or until defeated. Up until turn 8, each Vandal unit that crosses to Africa scores victory points. Okay, and this is not all well expressed here. Kind of negates the Romano-British advantage, which means I'm going to come here 1, and there's 1 swing against them. Now this prevents, a huge traffic jam from happening at the beginning, which I'm wondering if maybe I missed this and screwed it up. Okay, we killed 1. This is just in passing, so it's not going to cause any point changes, even if... Where are the Britons? What did I do with them? I lost them. Here they are. They get 1 point per Muslim infantry. Okay. 2, I'm crossing a river, so I guess that matters. And that's another hit. And 3 in the mountains with 2 infantry. Sounds like a clue. So infantry, attacking infantry in the mountains. You should know this. We got no hits. Now, I guess I'm allowed to just stack there with them. There's no fight or whatever. And I get my major invasion with all the rules that apply for that. The best result one could hope for. A lot of Vandals died. We got some forts. We didn't get Cordova, which is one we aimed for. I think we got everything else we aimed for. And we score, what, a point for each fort? To defending deeper in, I don't know. I mean, this is the area that's important to the Romano-British, and the Vandals. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 points for this turn. This is not a victory point turn, so I can write it right down. Other turns, I maybe have to worry more. And I got to be careful. I screwed up over here and put the bids in the total column. Okay, so I got half my total in play already, and if I could withdraw to Africa, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, I'm almost even, and that's without collecting any victory points next turn. So I think we're doing okay with the Vandals. I think we're going to make that 16 bid. Against the Allies, however, the Hispano-Romans are better set. In fact, they're sitting in some of the mountainous terrain that, for whatever reason, the Allies want greatly. This is what they most want. This is their second level. I'm going to put out their third level as well, just to help me decide what to do. Unfortunately, I only have 2 colors of tiddlies. So this is the stuff. The red is 2 or 3 point spaces. They have a lot of points available to them. And the blue is 1 point spaces, just to give you an idea of where they want to flow. They've got a lot of units here. I had to check the Visigoths, see what they're aiming for. Cuesca, Cataluyid, and Castellon. Castellon, Cuesca, Cataluyid. They're interested in some of the same stuff. They're not very big, but that's important because we have to kind of pay attention to who, to what is desirable to the person coming after us. We can't just clear the Romano-British out of the way and say we're good. We definitely would have to defend it. And then the remainder is the Suebe, who are heading that way. I forgot this. The Alains have special units. They have cavalry. Cavalry on the hit chart, as attackers, are really good on plains. As defenders, they're not. They also get extra movement, and I think it's more than just 1. I think they can move 5. I'm not sure. Okay. I'm sure, there it is. Cavalry can move 4. I thought something could move 5. Cav with a leader can move 5. So I got to rearrange what I'm doing here because I definitely don't want to waste my cav, but I also, I don't want to waste their movement points, but I also don't want to have them stuck in the mountains. So it's the case in all major invasion or in all leaders, but certainly here or something. I remember reading it somewhere else, but somewhere here, Elaine specifically rules say that Atraces, first turn of the major invasion, does not have to worry about stacking with his units. I'm actually not crossing the mountains with these cav. I'm not thrilled about that. Yeah, see, this sucks because I won't be able to get them where they need to go. I don't know. But I also, well, wait, I could go 1. Yeah, I can't cross this without the leader. So I'd have to stick the cav into here. Anyway, I gotta think about this. This is a puzzle. I mean, I could leave forces here But I think the stacking here is what? 2. Because there's a 3 there. Yeah. Which means I could leave 3 units there. That's not very good, and I would have to take the leader and the armies through. So it's kind of like I'm getting blocked by these mountains no matter what. Decided is to these 2 spaces don't matter to me, but I'm crossing a river, so I put 1 horse there. These are going to move forward. There's no problem there. I brought my cav with me into the mountains here so that I can sweep out with them. And I got a couple of cav that I'm just not thrilled with what is going to happen because the Visigoths are going to probably hit them. And that's not good. Too impressed with the extent of what I was able to do. It was so hard in these mountains that I had to leave my leader behind for that. Now, that allows me to have this space overstacked, call it a capital, this space overstacked with a leader. I'm okay. Cav ran down as far as it could to kill some things. The biggie is I collected up a bunch of forts and they're worth a lot to me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 is 14 points for the Alains. Here on turn 6. And with a 27 bid, that brings me down to negative 13. And I'm not really thrilled with the position I'm in. These cav are not terribly defensible. These are not defensible. The problem is cav only really work on the attack. The nice thing is nobody particularly wants to kill these guys, but this is open to the Visigoths, and I may not be able to hold the mountain line and all kind of weird stuff like that. What the rule is, the Alain did have a special rule for the leader, and you know, it is spelled out there. Sometimes not everything's spelled out on the front of the card. You have to go to the back and weed through the paragraph to find all the information. This is really a summary, but it also is information that's not included in there. So it's kind of an annoying way to present stuff. But yeah, the Sueve are not going to be able to do that super stacker thing. They get an extra stacking limit point for their leader, but that's it. Got lost in my head the thing I wanted to tell you, which is why I thought there was something funky there. There is. On a major invasion, after combat, you don't check stacking limits. But you do after movement, which means you can be overstacked by 1 or 2 in each area. Well, really 1, because the bonuses that the leader or the capital give are permanent bonuses. But transient. Round of that major invasion, this is where we puttered, but we killed the Cantabrians as a group. Again, we're knock out the old groups. It's one reason why you do want things that might conflict with each other, because you can save somebody and find them a place for points. And it's really hard to make the decision as to whether to bid on something that might help or might not when they have really conflicting point values. For example, the Galicians really are at odds with the Sueve. The Lusitanians, I think, can be a little further south. That's not the most comfortable place to be when the Muslims come, but whatever. So this is halfway through. I'm going to take a look. The Cantabrians, it looks to me like we're going to be at a negative 10. We didn't produce any additional points this turn. And this is turn 6. We'll give them a 0 there. We cross that out. And it looks like we gained 9. Negative 10 total. That is to the arrow player, bringing them to negative 24. They've had their second big failure. Means I can take the Cantabrians off and I'll bag them somewhere. But yeah, not good. Trying to think what else Oh, I wanted to see how big the Cantabrian. So the Cantabrian bid base was 22. So I probably was a little high, on that at 19. Really, bidding anything over the minimum is just such a risk. I don't know. But they don't get anything for killing the Hispano-Roman force. They're not really expected to be up here in their path. But there's an interesting thing. Other people do get points for them. Not the Visigoths. That's kind of important. So the next guy through, I don't care. So the stuff that's near him, like this, I'm expecting him to wipe out. But the Alains and the Vandals still do. So there's a possibility to poach points that they might get just because you want to be dicky. Just because, I don't know, It doesn't look worth it to hunt these kind of hard places. If I could get down here, maybe, but I don't think I'm going to get that opportunity this time. Right, we killed the Galicians as well at this point, and they ran at what, negative? I got -8 from here. Is that right? Yeah. That's what they are. And yeah, I got more pieces to get rid of. Galicians and Cantabrians have to go. We also made a kind of risky choice, leaving some guys in Pampelune, because we produced next turn. However, the Visigoths are not terribly interested in this, but they're not completely disinterested. They get like a ½ point per territory or something. But I think they only score for things with castles, or is that just their production? Yeah, no, it's just production. Yeah. And here we get our castle in Saragossa. I don't know when the fuck we get our other castles. 3 castles as reinforcements, just weird shit that like they have magical castles they don't have to pay for. One hard thing here is this turn I'm noticing the leaders are all staying an extra turn. And again, that's usually spelled out nicely. But like the Sueve leader, he shows up here. He's not, oh no, he is listed again for next turn. That helps. I'm sorry, I'm not sure Adices is though, and I thought he was. Maybe not. Maybe not. Yeah. I just don't trust what's on these because they're not always right. Or they're not always in agreement with the different sides. Okay. And that'll be the Visigoths next. Get to them. I gotta tell you, I think that the big happiness about the Britannia games, the thing that makes, I call them comfort food, but they pack a lot of narrative into not a lot of really heavy thinking. Yeah, there's some counting and there's some consideration or whatnot. But for the most part, they're really, really rich on that narrative in a way that so many games are not. It's actually one of the things I like about area movement games. If you look, a lot of the games that I like are more complex area games. The EU type of thing, La Révolution Française. Because I'm not that interested in the details at the hex level. Although I sometimes am vaguely interested in details that show up on the battle board or something like that. Usually I'm not a big fan of battle boards either. But there have been some games that handled them well. The All Is Lost Save Honor, I think, was one of them. But anyway, on to the Visigoths. I haven't even thought about them. I got to bag some stuff. So like I said, the Saragossa is exceedingly important. I have to mark that. That's here. Okay. It's not for points, but that's where my castle can go. The points and setup, the way the Visigoths work is very weird, and that may be part of why I see failures with them. I know the economy is. Because if we look, I gotta find the income rules for them. Like I think they only get income for castles, right? It's not. Income from now on, own areas with castles and half of subdued nations. But here's what they get. They get some points for killing Alains, a half point each for those. Well, that's tasty either. They were nice enough to leave me some. They can force Lusitania and Sueve to submit of 4 areas or less. Well, I'm nowhere near either. I'm not near the Lusitanians, and I'm nowhere near the numbers required for the Sueve. But remember, getting subduals is difficult in this game compared to most of them. Hispano-Roman with 3 areas or less. There's still quite a few of them. I'm not going to be able to do that. And Galicians with 2 areas or less. Well, somebody killed them, so they're out of my question. However, I thought Basques were in here. Yeah, Basques with 3 areas or less. So I could grab the Basques. That'll help me. That'll get me some income, even right away. Saragossa has to be my absolute goal here. If I don't get that, I don't get a castle, and that's $2 a turn in production. And that's all the production I get, until the turn 8 castles show up. Because of that situation, I had to send 3 units into Saragossa crossing the river. Just any chance of failure on that is just too devastating. I sent 2 units into the Basques. They unfortunately killed one, Maybe sending 1 is safer, but if I'm killed, then I don't manage to get the submission. I don't know what the best way of forcing things to submit is. And then I had to send another unit off loose to make sure, even if I survive with all my units, I don't end up taking a loss on the thing. I do get a bonus out of this. I get a half point out of the Alain. It's a really dicky thing. If somebody wants to be a complete ass to the Visigoths, and I haven't noticed that being necessary, they could just take Saragossa. And there goes my only source of reproductive income until I get the 3 other castles. I mean, that's a major hit, because that's $2 a turn that I'm just not going to get. And I mean, the Visigoths have problems, but taking away their capacity to build new units. I mean, yes, they get 10 more units on this next turn. 18 more units on turn 8. I don't know what the fuck this is. Another set of 3 castles, yeah. Plus 10 points if occupied whole of Spain. This is I think, victory points that they get on their turn, at the end of their turn. But eventually, that flow runs out. Now, yes, they're going to have some castles, and they're going to have some productive capability. If they subdue anyone, that's great, but subduing people is risky and difficult in this game. It's a crapshoot every time. You may not get anything, and it's not like it's going to be a huge amount of points, right? If I subdued the Basques, that's $2. Now, that's what I'm getting from Saragossa, but, Anyway, somebody could be a real asshole to the Visigoths if they really wanted to. And that puts us going into turn 7. I got to remember turn 9 is a special turn when a couple new nations come on. About the bidding and the inequality to the choices between the primary nations, okay? I think this is an important facet, and this is a balance facet. So Rome got 24 points above their bidding level. I was here thinking, hey, Carthage is doing pretty well. They haven't scored any negative points. Everybody else is kind of collecting up negative points, right? Well, we don't know, but they're still in the negative. Lusitania looks awfully iffy. It's hard to tell with Hellenes and Vandals how much they're going to do. They don't look terrible, but they're not great. Visigoths, I've told you, the Visigoths are a troubled nation. Like, they have potential to create negative points. They also just never, in most games that I've played, they never get the dominance that they historically should have had. Or if they come close to it, they can't keep it. It gets wiped out before they can transition. It gets really wiped out, like more than it should. But we'll see. Maybe it'll look better this time. Maybe my memory's faulty. But the Romans, I mean, the Visigoths, to me, it's lucky if you break even with them. Same thing with Castile, because you're getting handed a raw deal probably from the Visigoths. What's remaining? What did we say we had there? The Umayyads. They might do pretty well. But the Romans did really well. Now, there was no bid on those primary nations. They are, and this is where I have the biggest anger about this system. And you could fix that very, very easily. But the way it's written, there is no bid on the primary nations, and the primary nations are absolutely vital. Everything else, you have some option on, right? So, obviously, an extra few points on the Romans makes sense. I've never seen the Romans not make points. They do not get... Whatever they're rated at is just bullshit. They're rated at 46. I got 65. I did pretty well. It's not hard to do pretty well with them, though. But the average is definitely not 46. Likewise, my experience is that the average of the Visigoths is too high. The average of Castile is too high. Carthage, well, I'm kind of impressed. They survived without losing points. That's not too bad. What do we got from here? Looks like they broke about even. They lost a couple points. I bid more on them that time. I think Carthage is actually pretty... Oh, wow. How did I get away with an 11? That can't be. Seriously? Are they that low? Yeah. They're 16, so... Yeah. They're not... They did pretty poorly, and I bid low on them. It's hard to see. They got decent points last time, but it's just add initial bidding on the countries. Maybe change the minimum bids. I don't know. I mean, it just feels like redesigning that whole chart and the base points and whatnot would make a lot of sense, because they're just not realistic. And in some cases, like the Visigoths, I have seen stuff that I know is historically inaccurate, at least again, by my memory. I have no problem with what the Romans did here. I think that's pretty close to the historical case. The values to the countries that have a capacity to last the entire game, like the Lusitanians, but might get wiped out in the first few turns, those are just a fucking crapshoot. How can you bid on them? I mean, how can you come up, even if you could come up with an average for them, and say, half the games they get wiped out and basically get nothing, and half the games they get probably pretty close to the average that they put, but whatever, to some other value. You don't just split the difference down the middle and say, yeah, this is what you're having. The risk of losing a lot of points is higher than the potential gain. Is the problem. Anyway. and is more disturbing. You know, you don't want to bid on something and get wiped out for it. It's a different thing. I mean, there's a difference between, I don't know. There's just psychological reasons why this bidding system really, really fucking disturbs me. And I don't know what you can do with it. You know, I just don't know, because you want to give, excuse me, you want to give a point value to the, you know, to give people an idea of about how much they should be valuing these countries and when they're pushing too hard and whatnot. But that's a really helpful thing, and a thing that most of the games in the system, and certainly Britannia itself, you walked into with just kind of no idea of what you should be getting. This is a nice tracking to see how well am I doing in comparison. And that's very helpful because it lets other players know, do I have to beat up on you? And the answer for the Roman player, for everybody against the Roman player is, you know, we really ought to be picking on Sueves. Yeah, he exposed himself as wanting to, as controlling them. Well, they should get our wrath because he got too many points with the Romans. But and this guy is also a danger because I think he's got the Umayyads. But it's just I don't know. I mean, there comes a point where you can't always drive someone down based on the things they had. And I doubt that the Romans alone is enough. I think if everybody hunts them for the rest of the game, they will probably be brought down with the pack. Forward into turn 7, a little bit quicker, jumped ahead through sort of the old indigenous, or at least pre-Carthaginian, mainly Celtic tribes, the Basques being the exception, I think. The Lusitanians pulled back, the Basques fortified so that they have a chance to submit and try to survive. In both cases, this is a matter of trying to make sure we get some points later in the game when things are a little less pressured. Especially problematic is these Suevi, who are controlled by the Romans. The Romans would love to kill the Lusitanians and the Basques, for that matter, simply because this is another player who's doing okay. He hasn't cashed in any of his points. He hasn't taken a negative hit yet. He's got some sitting on the horizon, but you know, the Alains and the Vandals may do fine. And well, the Lusitanians look like a big negative if I can kill them off. The Basques probably aren't going to generate much if they well, they're not going to generate much if they die soon. So those are all kind of open questions there. Can't do anything against the guy who is really at 0 right now. And what, we got the other one that's kind of not taking too big a hit, but he took some, you know. So I don't know. And we're on the Hispano-Roman ones, which I wanted to take a look at. All the territory they control. Ooh, I forgot these points. It's another 1.5. They pulled, let's see, that would make it something 8, 9, 10, 11 points of stuff, which means 2 armies and the capacity to build more. Again, my main goal here now is probably to try to fortify and hold on to areas that I currently have. It's painful. I kind of had put out of my realization, turn 7's a victory point turn. I'm going to stick with the things that I did, including, you know, falling back and trying to hold areas rather than grabbing points. So like the Lusitanians, they get points for both of these, but, you know, I get points for neither if I am killed off. So we're gonna hold in the same positions we were in, but it does mean it's time for the Vandals to grab their maximal points and stuff like that. Kind of a tricky thing since I'm not using pencil. What the hell? I get points for the Alane. This is a victory point turn. I'm just going to keep the Alane piece here. They don't grow yet, so that should be fine. There might be times when I'm in a position where I can't wait to the end of the turn to score the points, but even if the Alane grew, they probably wouldn't be needing that unit. And that puts me to them. The pips I have down, the Alanes have an interesting and a huge quantity of points available to them. They don't have a whole lot of troops left, but you know, they've got interesting choices like take Saragossa, perhaps get points from it, and hurt the Visigoths, and I forgot to check reinforcements. Let me check everyone else. I think they're the only ones who are getting anything this turn. Others have leaders that are still in place, yeah. So there's going to be a pile more Visigoths showing up, I think this time actually in Gascony. I get Valia, is that Valen? Yeah. And 10 more infantry. And also a castle that I will put up here to remind me. That's enough that, you know, Saragossa is actually not that important, so if I wipe out the castle, I might get to keep it. I'm not sure. If I had somebody who was stuck back here as Cav, I would definitely be considering that. I don't know now. Let's see. He's already got a -8. I've got kind of a poor opinion of the Visigoths now. Earlier, I always had a, oh God, they're scary, they're big, you know, because they look it. But maybe as time has gone on, my impression of the danger of the Visigoths has made them, has waned, and they've become more valuable. We'll see. To explain what I initially started to work with. So I've got bigger points, and there's like 3 areas: Segovia, Toledo, Cordova, which is there's Toledo and Cordova. Where's Segovia? Up here. Those are exceedingly important, and I want them no matter what. I've got 2-point areas which are of interest, but some of them, like Catalid, might be too hard to attack with the forces involved. So I might want to hold off on those and go for 1-point areas, because especially if there's a fort that I can pick off, so something like these are actually worth 3 points each if I kill the fort. Regular Romano, Hispano-Romanos are not worth anything to me. Vandals are worth a ½ point to me, which is kind of interesting. Killing off Vandals might be of some value. Hey, that makes this incredibly important, you know. So I've got this balancing, and the whole, there's so many different options. The whole risk balancing becomes much, much more complicated than it is for most of the countries. See where the Alane have kind of spread out, and the excess points that they grabbed. It wasn't great, but it wasn't terrible. For the Sueve, they get production this turn. Unfortunately, they're spread out big enough. They got like 9.5 points. They only have 1 army that they lost, so they're not going to get as much. They have a leader in place. They probably want to destroy those Lusitanians if they possibly can. But they also want to worry about their turn 7 victory points. The Sueve managed to get everything they wanted, and then a little bit. Pays Basque they don't particularly want, but they withdrew from Pampelune with its big production points. I probably have enough production to recover my troops, given that I've got a full unit built up already. Managed to wipe out the Lusitanians, and that's the biggie. So we've got the Lusitanians here on turn 7. Get a 0, and they're gone. And that means we produced, it looks to me like 6 points, -13, that's right. and that will go onto the flower as their first existence on the score sheet. It hurts the Visigoths is the way the sequence of play is designed. You calculate income before you place new armies, which means, by my understanding, these castles don't show up until after I've had an opportunity to collect income. My income is 0 because I have no subdued nations. So, you know, it's not a huge deal right now, but then in later turns, I'm going to be getting 3 more castles twice in the game. Just these piles of income that, you know, that could be probably around 4 or 5 production points, an extra army in each case. That, you know, if you skewed things just a little bit, you could probably give them a significant advantage for that. But this is how I see the rules as written. What the hell are we looking for with them? Turn 7. Let's mark those down. I'm not going to be able to get way out there, and I don't know how you're supposed to. I think the only kind of reason is you got turn 10, you got the same victory point thing, and that's easier to do. Easier than writing these victory points out here and turn 7 or something like that. You know, I don't know. With the Sueve. Oops. The Visigoths for turn 7 want very different things. They want things they can get. Cuenca, Catalun, and Castellon. We want to control the mountain region there, and anything else is worth a half point, including any subduals. This is weird. Here they say income from castles and subdued, but here it actually doesn't trigger until next turn anyway. So I couldn't have gotten it even if I had a subdued nation. And here's the setup for the attacks. Next turn I get a major invasion. Get 18 units. But this is the victory point turn, and I got to try to capture some value during this. And making some semi-risky attacks and some attacks that don't do me much at all. Get all the stuff we wanted and wipe out, well, subdue the Basques, which will get us an additional half point or whatever right now. But we'll also be getting income from that. A note about this, not only, so like a fort, it's sort of this bonus, hey, I get to hold things with these extra pieces that I didn't have to pay for or whatever. But more than that, it's an exceedingly good defensive thing. Remember, it counts as like 3 units. You know? Plus, it doesn't count against stacking. The only danger is that it makes you easier to overrun. Even if you have a stack of units there, you're considered to go hide in the fort and let the enemy pass through if they want to. All right, we'll start counting in a moment and see what we get to. The points for most of the countries. I haven't gotten completely through, but I know I'd lose my train of thought on this if I do not, which is, this is kind of weird. The Alains and Vandals both in the same hands, and I didn't really realize it as I was playing. I hunted down each other to some extent. Not much. The Vandals didn't do much. They killed off an Alain horseman, though, which I probably didn't want to do. And then the Alains killed off some Vandals. You got to be careful when you're running the same countries, because they do end up wanting the same stuff, and then you have to kind of perform the optimization for your points across multiple nations. Or you could just forget that you're playing both and, you know, sorry, I had to wobble my battery there and deal with that. I'll come back with the full scores rather than, you know, get things in the way. But you can see people are getting close or even exceeding and scoring positive points now. The final scores for the current nations are the Alains are at 5.5. A bunch of people clustered around the 0 point. Anything they get from now on is just, you know, bonus. Hispano-Brits at -12, not looking so good. They've kind of eaten a lot of their point capacity up. Turn 5 and 7 is really where they're getting, well, turn 7 is really where they're getting their points. I was hoping more of them would be left. They got the capacity to last the whole game, though. So it kind of depends on how well Arrow is doing, and he's pretty much bottomed out right now. So people will not necessarily hunt to kill the Hispano-Romans, right? Whatever. Let's take a look at the points. Hellenes pulled in 18.5. Remember, they have nice scoring chart. Lots and lots of points plus kills. Basques only got a half point because they're submitted in a shitty location for them. Did I get the list? Yeah. Hispano-Romans only pulled in 6. I was expecting to be pulling in, I don't remember what, most of the points that I could get, and it just didn't happen, right? I don't know. Overbid. Lusitanians, nothing, of course. The Sueve, 16 points, maximizing what they could get this turn. That's why they're almost clear, and they've got a while to generate more points. The Vandals got 7, which, again, cleared them to the edge, and everything they get now is pretty much gravy. And the Visigoths got 13, which still puts them, they're so expensive. So 46, they're like negative 33, right? They have to do a lot because they're one of the big expensive nations. That's one of the nice things about Carthage. You're not risking anything, but I don't feel like you're really risking anything with Rome either. And the Umayyads are pretty potent as well. For whatever reason, the Visigoths, I just don't think they're the point generators that the other big nations are. And Castile, because they're reliant on the Visigoths, really, really iffy as well. But we'll see, because it's the Visigoths that I always see as the problematic thing. But it's because it may not be so much that they produce no points, as at the end when they hand things over to Castile is so weak. Maybe that's the issue. And if we take a look, Castile, oh Jesus. Castile has a 60-point bid for the scenario E and only 44 for D. In 2 turns, Castile is expected to make that many additional points. I just don't see that. I think that's actually probably really, really crappy. And if we look at Castile, because we looked at, looks to me like Castile never made a point. That can't be. Looks here like maybe 19. No, that's Carthage. I got 38.5 here, so that's this line. Yeah. So they made decent points. I've got a 38 bid here, which sounds more like I based it on scenario D. I got the cross on here, though, and we're out to turns 19 and 21. I don't know. Maybe I made a decision that, like, I would allow them to... 38 would be wrong anyway. If it was a 5-player game, which it was. I don't know what the fuck I was doing here. Making shit up? Yeah, I got no idea. But I don't think they're going to make the 60. I may have balanced things out and said, screw it, give them the 44 or whatever, because they're so fucked. But I have no idea. And you're stuck with them, right? Like, whichever is the worst of these, someone is going to have at that 5-point, stupid battery thing again, that 5-point penalty. I mean, they're going to have, because these aren't bid on, I wouldn't mind if the worst bid was the 5-point penalty, because still, there would be some balancing factor as people learned the game and learned how the points distribute properly, for them to, yeah, the Romans are likely to get, 24 points positive off of it. So it's worth bidding 15 above the minimum, or maybe even above what you expect, to avoid getting one of the ones that's almost assured to get a negative. I mean, a big negative, right? Anyway, because that 60 just looks obscene to me. I can't even imagine that. Now, if that was 50, I would buy it a little bit more. I know Castile's supposed to do well in that late stage of the game. I don't think we're going to see anything that factors in that forces them to do so. But again, in a way, this game, I admit it's so flawed that I'm like La Révolution Française and others, I just don't even know where to start fixing it, It's like, yeah, I mean, I could re-establish all these points, but is that what I really want to do? Especially when, if I lower the points, that makes those countries more of a target and makes them more likely to be hunted down, rather than, even when they're not a target, they kind of naturally end up getting wiped out. I don't know. Moving into turn 8, turn 8. The only really exciting thing coming reinforcement-wise, difference changes, whatever, other than people getting their, normal incomes that they haven't been getting, is the Visigoths are getting their major invasion, big pile of troops, and they're also getting they're getting 2 leaders this turn. No stacking limitations with the leaders on the first turn of the invasion, specified in here. And then next turn, we're going to be getting some castles and some points if we can take all of Spain outside of the islands and one area. So we really kind of want to dominate, either directly or through our submitted nations, all of Spain. Not this turn, but by next turn. We got a lot of force to try to do it. 18 units is quite a bit, but it's starting way up here in Narbonese. It's not the easiest place to advance things. I've already got the Basques on my side. I am able to submit who else? The Sueve, the Hispano-Romans. Everything else is gone. Now, on the bright side, the Vandals might be wanting to leave and whatever. Had this happen, the Basques are submitted to the Visigoths now, so they only got a half point, and the Visigoths get a half point of income for that. I don't think the Basques want to go anywhere. Things look dangerous out there. Actually, not that dangerous. They're friends with the Visigoths. They can move and take Barcelona, which will get them a greater proportion of income. They can't go into the Visigoth areas and stay, but they can expand. Hispano-Romans kind of trying to consolidate. Vandals and Alans pulling back to their central areas and not conflicting with each other. That's kind of the thing. And we're abandoning territory to the Visigoths because, there's a big difference between having one unit in an area and having a couple units in an area. One unit in an area, it can just be run through with a couple units covering it. A couple units in there, first of all, it takes 4 to overrun, which is the same as 2 areas with 2 units each. But also, it is just tougher to fight a couple of units. You probably won't kill them both, so retreat opportunities become available, whereas 2 hits of 2 units on one, I feel, is more likely. I don't know. I'm not sure why. I think about the probabilities, and it doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. Well, it's more likely that you will survive 4 dice against 2, then 2 dice against 1 twice. I don't think so. I think it's actually less likely. I don't know. But it feels stronger. I missed something here. Okay, 3 castles, 1 in Toledo. I do not own Toledo. Not north of Saragossa or in the mountains. I'm only going to get 1 castle out of this. Here at Tortosa. I misplayed the Visigoths, that's for sure. These should have... It's weird. Let me make sure this is right, because the way it's worded, this comes after everything in the invasion, so I don't know. At the end of Visigoth, turn 8. Okay. Whatever. All right, so yeah. So I definitely want Toledo, and I want other territories that are of value, that are not north of Saragossa, and are in the mountain, are not in the mountains. Tortosa will be mine as well automatically, although I think I have to leave a unit there to keep that. And then, oh no, Toledo's the automatic. Tortosa is a good choice though, and then ideally maybe something like Valencia or something where I can get the 2 points. Now, let's look at what the next set of castles is. Not north of or in mountains. Okay. I think the not north of is not north of Saragossa again. Yeah. But who knows. Find something of value here. Turn 9's reinforcements of castles, I don't think are mentioned. And then it goes to turn 10. So, you know, again, some of the information's on the back that you need, but not all of it. And it's not presented in an easy to digest form. It's this huge blob. The Visigoths are the most complicated of all the nations in the game. So, the tightness of how we were compacted, everybody's going into Via Castilla. Remember, I don't have to worry about any kind of stacking limitation with this because this is the special invasion rules. We're trying to kill off some Alains. We get points for them, and I don't think they can submit. I think the only things we can submit, we went through them, Sueve, Basques, Hispano-Romans. You know, but whatever, and we definitely need to get Toledo. And then we'll spread out next turn. Maybe do some serious damage to the Sueve. I don't think we can get them to submit this turn. And Hispano-Romans, what are they? Sueve 4, Basque and Hispano-Romans at 3 or less. We're going to have a hard time getting that too, because they're shifted over here, but they got 2 over here that we're probably leaving alone. So we basically have to wipe them off the map, which is the equivalent of submitting them. One of the problems we have is if we don't submit nations, we may run out of troops to be able to hold all the territories. If we don't have all of them, we can get 2 points per region, which is almost as good, you know, proportionally, but obviously we'd like to try to get that 10 points if we can. Push a little bit more oomph into this attack. I could have a shot at Seville, but the only way I could get that is to go through here, and that doesn't seem terribly valuable. So instead, this heavy northern concentration pretty much forced because of putting everybody here. I could have, couldn't have done anything because I wouldn't have the leaders to get down to the mountainside to break down. That means all these 2-point areas, which would be good candidates for castles, well, I wanted better odds here, so I put these guys in there. I got to cover Toledo so I get a castle. So then the question is, where else do I get it? Where do I get my 3rd castle? Turns out it's going to be at Tortosa. That's a 2-point area. 2 points aren't bad. I'm stuck with one with Toledo. you know, there aren't many three-point areas out there. Granada, well defended. Seville, a little too hard to get to. And that's about it. I'm facing mixed forces. I hit them all on the same number. So I don't know. I've been treating the forts, the Roman forts, as though they're infantry because of that factor. And you just let the defender pick what they want to kill. I guess I could I think one way I could kind of correspond with that is say, I'm shooting at all of these and hoping to kill them all. And then maybe the cav survives and retreats. The other option is I have to split them, and I've got like 4 units, so I'll probably throw 3 against the 2 cav and 1 against the Elaine infantry and hope I get lucky. I'm going to do the combined, even though I'm not sure the rules support it, because it all takes the same hit number when you're trying to attack cav. And to me, that's the important factor. It's what the hit number is. But, you know, I'm making up rules here, man. Our luck meant we got not a chance to make the Sueve submit. It's okay. We can force them probably next turn. You can see we cut way into what they've got there. And what happened was I attacked them to the point where I would get one attack against 4 or less, presumably. Well, I lost here with 2 units against 1, and I didn't withdraw because I wanted that expansion. I wanted the submission chance so much that I stayed in a 1-to-1 fight in the mountains, which is slightly against me, but it's not as bad as it is in Britannia. But now they're at 4 not being attacked, so they're safe. The Hispano-Romans, again, I will get 1 shot against one of these areas because these 2 I'm just not going to be able to hit probably. I could go for them, but my goal is, of course, to get all of Spain, and that's going to be really, really tough. Unless the Vandals just up and leave. Which is one thing, if you have the Visigoths and Vandals, and I don't know if that's allowed. It is. If you have the Visigoths and Vandals, you could pull your Vandals out and open things up and make things a little easier on the Visigoths. You're not allowed to have the Alains. Well, we got some hits there. So first things first, we got some points here. 2 points that we accumulated. And this gets bagged. And that is all we're getting for this turn. Still not enough to get us on the track. And we get 3 castles, one of which must go in Toledo. No rules if we don't take Toledo. One which we'll put in Cordoba. And then the last one, yeah, we're going to put it where we expected to, up in Tortosa. We took Alcantara. It's a 2-point area, but it's mountains. That's why we left Villa Castilla. We left a lot of territory for the Basques to expand into. If they don't, whatever they don't take, we kind of have to move into to get the points for, I guess, eastern or northern Spain. And I think that's it for turn 8. Turn 9, however, brings 2 new nations into play, the Byzantines and the Franks, and I will set them up for the bidding. This marker, there'd be a good chance I would forget without putting something there to like, hey, what's up? Okay, so our remaining bids. The Byzantines have some restrictions on them. Both, I'm sure, do. Hispano-Rome, because I'm going to be going for the islands. The Visigoths, because they're all over the place. And Granada, which, who cares? They're not in yet. I'm not going to let that affect me. The Franks cannot be the same side as the Basques. Let's take a look at the bidding points. for them. So the Byzantines are supposed to be able to get 16 points in the full game, 15 in any other version. I have naval supremacy. The only time I get it. I get points for killing Muslim units and Almohade who are not marked as Muslim, I think. I'm not sure. I don't know why that would be the case. I can probably come close to getting, maybe not 14, but over 10 points from that. And after that, I get 1 point for each area remaining in the game. And, you know, can I survive or not? That means they're not too bad. They're not too bad. At 16, they sound like a fair deal. Let's see what we got the last time we played. Let's see what we got the last time we played them. Yeah. Wow, that's an awfully straight line for me. We got 4. Well, that's not a good sign. With 11 being the minimal bid. I'm not sure why I see them as not being able to get around 11 points. That eraser, I think, is in the wrong place. I think I forgot to move it on. Shit. We can figure out where that belongs because we auctioned off. What was the last thing to be auctioned off? The Visigoths were the last to move. Probably the Sueve. They got purchased here. I think they were in the bidding. Yeah. So yeah, actually the water drop will be somewhere. When did these guys come in? Turn 6 or something. Yeah, I'm not good at... We'll make it a peanut. Okay. Yeah, that's why they're not bidding on anything. I can't draw their thing. I can't draw any of the things, but that's okay. Okay. So that means that's the starting bid on them. Let's think about how many each nation has gotten so far, and I'll record that here. So water drop has gotten 1 so far. X's have gotten 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 so far. Remember, they're only allowed 8 total. The diamond has gotten 1. And I probably haven't counted 1 in yet. 1, 2, looks like just 2. The Romans have gotten 1, 2, 3. And this other thing has gotten 1, 2, 3, 4. I've already got Castile counted in there. Which probably means, yeah, probably means I have the Umayyads, or whatever they're supposed to become. Let's see, what are they supposed to be? Yeah, they're the Umayyads. What is their symbol? Is that the X? Are the Umayyads? Let's see what they took. Alain Basque. Lusitania. I got the Umayyads down for them. Okay. So they got their 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yeah. They're allowed 3 more without being penalized by forcing. You just have to keep that kind of count in mind. And you know, I mean, if you're getting 0 for these extra ones, it's probably not worth having bid for them, right? The cautionary amount of points that the Byzantines got last game has convinced everyone to kind of hold off. The Globe, who were the Romans, bought them at 11, since nobody else was able to bid at that point. They're like, yeah, I'll do it. How about the Franks? Let's look at them and see what they're worth. So they have a base bid of 17. Now they're weird. They turn into Aragon, which means there's a potential penalty there. I think they're this. That can't be. It's got to be this. Well, they made a lot of points if that's the case. It looks like it probably is. They could have gotten away with a 12 bid. Their only restriction is they can't be the same player as the Basque, which means the guy who's got the first bid is disallowed. Everyone else is allowed in. I don't think anyone else has a ridiculous number of things where they would say no to. Let's take a look at what their points are like. So they get a few points early on. Okay. Turn 10, they get no points for areas. They get points for killing Muslims. Castles and leaders only when they come in. They're going to get Roland and some additional forces. And then they get an increase and a castle for free. And then maybe, I don't know how they got so many points. I mean, killing Muslims, obviously. So I'm looking at 5, 10, maybe 15 points. I think that 30 points is probably way over the level. They're giving it 17. That's probably pretty close. We'll see who buys it for what. Franks go for 15 points over here. Again, the teardrop is just like, I don't want to play. I don't know. I do not know what's up with him. Visigoth owner hasn't had a lot of countries, so that's okay. I looked at it, doesn't interfere much, but I looked at the Visigoth rules, and I'm having a whole hard time dealing with them. Mainly, how they're going to get any fucking points. So, they get points for they get points for killing Franks. Interesting. Well, there's a, it's kind of a, there's a reason and not a reason to have them, because I can devote myself against the Byzantines with them. But let's look at what we're getting. We get maybe 10 points on turn 9, right? That's the maximum we get there. On turn 10, which is a regular victory point turn, we get points for each castle. The income value of that castle is points. That could be quite a bit. If we're not driven out of our castles, we could be scoring some serious points off that. There's no question. Right now, we're looking at 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And another 6 isn't unreasonable, so that's 15. So now we're at 25. That's, we're getting a decent pile of points from what I'm looking at. Turn 11, Roderick comes in, disappears if Toledo falls. All the remaining castles will surrender if they're attacked while they don't have any kind of infantry garrison in them. So obviously the attacker will focus on the infantry. And then turn 12, this is weird. They get leader Pelayo, who actually is a Castilian leader, who I guess will stay for the next time. I don't have Castile up. Okay. I think he's a Castilian leader. Anyway, that shows up. And at the end of the turn, they turn into Castile in northern Spain and in Avilla. I don't know where Avilla is. Here. So whatever's left of the Visigoths above the line converts. They'll have a minimum on that, which 8 infantry, 2 knights, and 1 castle. Any remaining castles turn neutral. They have no more capacity to get points. So we're looking at like 25 points plus maybe some change if we kill some things. Probably not that much, because I doubt I'll get the 10. Let's take a look. What are the Visigoths at? Well, they had a 46 bid, and they're at 15 and a half. If I get sort of that maximum 25 points, I'm still negative, right? And that 46 bid is 5 under their expected value. I don't know where they're supposed to get it from. I just don't know. And I have seen them wiped out, like pretty much wiped off the board by the Umayyad invasion, I think. It's rough, man. It's rough, and I don't know where those points are going to come from. They don't get that many. The 1 point per Muslim unit is interesting, but that's it. And we only get the points from the castles. We don't get it from, oh, no, I missed something. Half a point for each other area. Yeah, we might be able to make that average. All right, we'll see. Anyway, that's where we're at. What are we in? I'd say we're still kind of in the Barbarian Era, because we've got the Vandals and the Alains still playing around the Sueve. None of those have converted, even though it's kind of the later end of the Barbarian Era. Could I load it up? Sure, I could, but do I want to? I don't know. So, we already talked about the Visigoth bonuses for turn 9. They get some scoring. They get some additional castles, another set of 3. Same kind of limitation, not north of, assumably, Saragossa, nor in the mountains. Okay. But in addition, the Vandals also get a turn 9 points, which is by area. And these kind of points, I'm not sure when they're scored. Let's see. It doesn't say anything special here. Let's just see what... Yeah, I don't see anything here. Okay. So I'm assuming that they're end of turn points, as opposed to end of player turn, right? Which is potentially a big deal, because the Visigoths could take Vandal territories that are worth 2 points each, whereas they can't take away the 1 point each that I get for withdrawing into Africa. Usually, these sort of individual country points that are on like their own turn in most of these style games, well, usually these, that they have their own like victory point turn or whatever. Usually, that's scored right after the country goes, which is a real bonus. So like here, I would cover as many of these as I could take easily, withdraw the rest of them, and be happy. That doesn't feel like it's the case the way this is written. Same thing for the Visigoths, but the Visigoths have, and again, this actually specifies count victory points at the end of his turn. So the Visigoths have kind of this nice thing, which is important because after they go, the Byzantines go, and they're not going to be able to have dominance of Spain at that point. So the Vandals are going to have a tough call as to whether to just abandon territory to the Visigoths and let them spread out, or try to defend those. Now, remember, if it takes 2 counters to hold an area, that 2 points is not such a good thing. And if we look at the star, the Visigoths aren't particularly scoring all that well. as a nation, and I think as a player, and I think the nation of the Visigoths has an impossible goal. So, great. I can probably abandon the territory, but I can't abandon all of it. Only these pieces can leave, which means because I'm only, remember, it costs a full turn to cross over. Thing, the Basques just took their turn. They get half their points, which is 1.5, and the other points go to the Visigoths. Since the Visigoths are at 4, I can leave it there. I don't have to start pulling counters. Otherwise, they would have additional counters that come in. But yeah, the Basques have the threat of the Franks coming, which also have special points here. And they're interested in the Pyrenees Orientales, but maybe not all that much. Are they interested in Pampelune? They are. And of course, Huesca is their key area. Barcelona is important to them. So the question with the Basques is, do I pull back to here, or do I try and take defensible terrain? They only have 4 units. They're probably not going to reach too far, but they would probably take this if I expose it, so I'll move back. That's still not going to give me another army next turn, but keeping the Basques alive is worthwhile. Yeah. Something I wanted. When does this happen? This appears to happen at the end of the turn, but they're the last player, so it is no biggie. Okay. All right. The Hispano-Romans have kind of tried to pull back and position themselves. They're facing a double threat. The Visigoths need to wipe them out and or submit them. Submitting them is good enough. I tried to remember what the submission is. I think it's 3 areas or less, yeah. So, you know, maybe I'm better off improving my chances of submission here. Because otherwise I lose a place. That may change the outlying position. The Vandals did what they could to optimize their points. They're assuming we will get destroyed, but we may hold out in Granada. Also moved to here, the more valuable of the locations. Yes, the Byzantines will fight harder to get that, but whatever. It doesn't seem too different. And now we're on the Alain. And here's the problem with the Alain. They're just in a bad place. They get points, though, for killing Uric or Alrek. Alrek is probably coming on this turn. No. Interesting. Who the fuck is Alrek? Where is he? He's got to be on the board or dead. Maybe he died already. Oh, here he is. Here's Alrek. All right, he's definitely out of range. I could try to kill Uric. He's got a lot of troops with him and a castle. That's going to be really, really hard for me to kill. I get points for killing Visigoths on my turn. Maybe my best move, and I have Cav, see, and that changes things. Cav versus castles are still very good for some reason. I might be able to wipe out Toledo. You know? What does that gain me? Not much. I kind of think I'm best off hitting here and hoping for great luck. I'm dead no matter what. That's the problem. I mean, here I only can get 0.5 points. The Visigoth castle, I mean, maybe I could kill this castle, maybe not. I'm almost impossible to kill Uric. But there's more infantry here. So killing the infantry seems like a good idea. Plain figure out how to wipe themselves out, which is the expected result. Bagging themselves, that got them up to 6.5 points total, and that's pretty cool. Of course, I fucked up and wrote it under Vandals because I'm not in great shape right now. Nothing works very well after I go dancing. All right, which would explain some of what you hear in my voice. They got a couple extra units. I collapsed myself as much as possible so that I have the greatest possible chance of submitting. That's my best, basically every territory that the Visigoths have to fight me in is a territory that I'm likely to lose. The only question is, although I'm well defended, the only question is really, I actually could have done this. Hold on. I think I'll improve my chances. No, I thought I had a way through. Never mind. Okay. The only question is, how much they kind of have to expend on it. And again, I'm not that worried about the Visigoths because I've seen how poorly they do. It looks to me like the Visigoths, who are coming up next, are going to have a tough job. But they do get some points. 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So they're going to be getting like 3 armies to play with. I don't think they get any leaders whatsoever, though. Looks like they lose their leaders here. And I'll figure out where to put them. But I've got the Basques controlled. Romano-British and Sueve, I should be able to force them, but how much force is that going to take? And I've got to kill the Vandals and take as much territory as I possibly can. And it's just I don't have very many pieces to do this with. And the Vandals are perhaps the hardest, but that's southern Spain. No particular area means more than another, but we're talking about I lose 4 points if I don't get any given area. Optimize which areas I want to take. It looks to me this is all open and free, so I just have to spread out over it. These I can kind of get through domination, perhaps. And then do I have enough pieces, to do what I need to do? I get the castles to begin with, though. That will help. That will help me control 3 more areas. So that's a big deal. I don't know. Maybe I don't get 3 castles because they can only be placed in areas that are not in the mountains, and most of the territories I'm in are in the mountains. That leaves, they don't have a castle already. That leaves me with 3 areas. One of them, Salamanca, no problem. These other 2, are they north of Saragossa? Well, I don't know. Right? What does north of Saragossa mean? It's not well defined. It's pretty easy to see here what's north of Saragossa and what's not. Is this? Yeah, I don't know. I can't place it there because I'm not occupying it. That creates a problem. Let me see. The wording of the last one. Maybe I can't place it in Salamanca because remember the wording was fucked up on the last one, right? Turn 8 was 3 castles, but I believe they came. Okay, I believe they came in after the turn. In turn 9, the Visigoths collect. Oh, Jesus. I fucking hate the way they explain this shit. Like, I was able to move to get the castles, which was useful. Okay. On turn 8, they get 3 castles for free. One must be placed in Toledo's. All others, including the first 3 he gets after his turn 9, may not be placed in the mountains or north of Saragossa. No, it doesn't tell me. At the end of turn 8, they get 3 castles for free. In turn 9, the Visigoth can collect 10 points if they can conquer the whole of Spain, excluding the 2 islands in one area of their choice. Here it doesn't talk about when you get the castles. Is it at the end of the turn like the last one? Which, makes it very easy to get good castles, and I think that's the interpretation I'm going to make. Or is it at the beginning of the turn, which puts this weird problem where, like, I free up a unit that's garrisoning Salamanca, but if I'm losing 2 castles, that's ridiculous because of these locations. And I would say that they're north of Saragossa because the discrimination for me would be the river line if it comes to, geez, I don't know what else to do. Be my best setup, ignoring southern Spain because it's too big and has the problem of the Vandals. Yes, that gives some points to the Vandals. Bonus. If they had spread out more, they'd get even more points. My shots on the subjugation, taking a shot here, taking another shot here, taking a shot here, and a shot there. Any of them, I believe, force subjugation. I don't think there's any maze here. Sueve must. Yeah, they all must. So I may be able to survive things. Now, I could get a couple more pieces than I'm showing, but that's still not enough to do the job. And this gets me, the way I would get a couple more pieces is by withdrawing from areas that I've subjugated. So for example, I'm going to get maybe Badajoz. But at most we're talking 4 spaces. That's not enough to take out the Vandals and take southern Spain. I'm lucky with the Hispano-Romans. They did not subjugate. But we got the Sueve, and that means we're going to get 6 points for the turn, I think. Yeah. And we get new castles running across here that'll help us. I marked the locations the Byzantines want. I'll take them off. But they have a population problem. Yeah. They have to hit a lot of areas that are hard to take. I have the Romano-British stuff. I have these castles sitting along the line here. I had to grab things like La Mancha and make this attack into Cuesta with the hopes of getting more stable population, assuming I win these luckily, right? I could throw more pieces in and just guarantee that I'm going to lose them. On the other hand, I'm going at even in these fights, which is pretty damn iffy. Maybe I should have 5 pieces on each. It's hard to tell. Infantry attacking castle is actually at a penalty, so it's worse than even. Yeah. Let me throw an extra piece into each of these. But as you can see, I have a lot of things I want that are not on here. Cordova and Cartagena are also places that the Byzantines want to take. And that's going to require castles next time. I also only get half income for the game. So I'm going to have a tough time getting a lot of points with the Byzantines. What the hell was my bid on them? and 11, pretty low. I have a stacking problem. I can't attack with this many units. So yeah, that was why these guys are up here. I'm only allowed to send 3+1 in. Now I could call one a capital and put an extra unit in, but if I'm going to spread out, I'll go with that original setup. Mixed results. I took the 2 islands, managed to take Valencia. I got beaten back here, and I'm at sea. I didn't get any hits on the castle, which is part of why I withdrew, even though I paid the price for the naval landing already, right? Moved up to Cuenca, whatever. But I can't be too unhappy with what's happened here. Now, I lost like most of my units, but that's okay. It's the Byzantines. It's kind of expected. The final thing that we're going to hit is the Franks. But while I was doing this, I had to look up the Visigoth transferal to Castile. Now, the way that happens is they have to have, their minimum is 11 in the north, which is this line, and Evia. 11 infantry. Other infantry that other forces that they have on the board have no effect whatsoever. Okay, well, I don't have a lot of spaces in the north. And, you know, the Franks are going to come cutting through Pampelune, whatever. It's going to be tough for me to pack 11 units in there. It's something to keep in mind because I've got the Sueve holding most of the north for me. To occupy all the spaces. The Franks end up attacking the Visigoths, owned by the same player. They get their 4 points. That's pretty much what they can expect. They killed a Visigoth. Terrible. The last thing is we score for the Vandals. I think they're the only turn 9 scorer who scores at the end of their turn. Let me just or at the end of the overall turn, which is a weird circumstance. This one was that. Oh, Franks also are at the end of the turn, but I just scored them. So for the Vandals, what do I have? I have 2, 4, 6 more points for the Vandals. And I had put that there. That gets them up to 21. So they net 5 points for their player, who I think is doing okay. Not great. No, but it's hard to do great in this. Now that gets them up to a -3. Except that's not the player. What did I say? 5 points for the Vandals. What's my symbol? My symbol's a little flower, which is that. So I'm at -1.5, which isn't too bad, to tell you the truth. And they're now bagged. They don't have one of these. All right. Weird, because this particular period, like, there's sort of a blurring of the lines of the period, but I'm calling this the end of the Barbarian Era. Now, what's weird is this turn, we had the Byzantines coming in, we had the Franks coming in. These are, you know, later powers, but really, with the Vandals and Alain being destroyed, the Visigoths, yeah, they were barbarians, but they're building castles and stuff, you know. They're no longer feeling like barbarian raiders. They're sort of this next stage of the game where the castles are in play. And that lasts really for the rest of the game. The next big move is when the Umayyad come in, which is turn 11. Now that's a big shift too, but like I said, it kind of blurs across. So I'm gonna bookend this and load this one up. I was considering it, you know, a turn ago or whatever. Turn 10 is gonna be a victory point turn. Which again is kind of a weird thing. Usually, like, the victory point turn isn't the turn that I consider sort of the end of the era. But again, it's sort of this weird blurring. And now with the Vandals and Alain gone from the game, and this guy with his 5 powers played so far, he's got 3 more left. Yeah. I mean, he hasn't played all 5, right? One of them, yeah, the Omeyyad is one of them that's counted against him. So, but he's committed to 5, which is a big deal. And this guy who has played 1 and had better get 3 more before the end of the game. We're halfway through the game, but 0 doesn't feel that bad. If you don't have the Romans, 0 seems like a good final score. All right, up it goes.